Thanks, Adam. I
Yep.
really appreciate this opportunity to present about Job Hackers. We're a 501c3 registered nonprofit. And what we do is we provide free Agile and Scrum training to professionals who are unemployed or in between and transition to help upskill them so that they can find meaningful work in technology. So the class that we provide, which is our flagship class, is called the Agile MBA.
Nice.
It runs for 6 weeks, Tuesday and Thursday mornings, early in the mornings, because I have to get to my day job. What we teach is basically about the complex world, the world of knowledge work, and how to be successful. And that's a lot about what Agile is. It's a pretty interesting, class, and we've been giving it away for free, which is unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've calculated with the numbers, we have some pretty high numbers. We're starting a new class on Tuesday.
Okay.
And I checked last night before I went to bed. We had 206 people enrolled for this next class, which is some huge numbers. They're from all over the United States because it's online, as we know, during the pandemic.
Sure.
And we have about a dozen foreign countries as well, people joining us. So it's just, we've given away about $1.5 million is what we've calculated of free training over the last couple of years. And by the end of this year, we'll be over $2 million. We're making a big difference in some people's lives with this, free educational program.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely not a cheap thing to do. So I mean that's awesome that you're providing it at no cost. And for those who and just to kind of preface this comment, I had no idea what Agile and Scrum was until I started reading a little bit about it, and I still don't really have as much of an understanding as you do. And for those who are non-technical, like myself,
Mm-hmm.
who don't know what it is, it's extremely important, especially if you own a tech company and you're trying to put together a team and you need a project manager or a program manager and you're not really sure what are the qualifications, what should I look for, do they need to know this? And I know that they need to know X, Y, and Z, but do they also need to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G as well? Yeah. And I think that I'd like you to describe what is Agile and what is Scrum for those who are not as educated on the topic as you.
Yeah, certainly. We'll start with Agile because that was really the basis of it. And Agile at its heart is merely a philosophy. There is a document called the Agile Manifesto that was created in 2001, and it is 4 values and 12 principles. This was written at the time about software development, but what we've learned in the interim is that the things that we're applying in software development can be applied to other areas where people do knowledge work. So these 4 values and 12 principles basically just become an underpinning. So that's why it's a philosophy. It's a set of ideas. It's a way of looking at the world maybe a little bit differently. And it's how we value certain things. It was called the Agile Manifesto because there were 17 men who got together in February 2001. They were all doing kind of different things, but they were trying to figure out what they had in common. And I think that, I don't know for sure, but I think the term Agile Manifesto is a bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't think they realized what effect it would have on the world. But like all great ideas and philosophies, they sometimes really resonate.
Yeah.
And so these are just wonderful things that we can do and originally to produce good software, but it's being used now in education and marketing and architectural design and all kinds of other areas of knowledge work. So you can read the 4 values and 12 principles, and certainly the word software is in there, but you could abstract that out and apply
anything
to many things. And that's what we teach in the class. So the interesting thing is that once you have this philosophy, the question becomes, how do I take these wonderful ideas and make them part of my daily life? And there are a number of ways you can do it.
Sure.
You almost, it's not the best analogy in the world, it's one that I think is apt, is you can compare it to a religion, because a religion is merely a philosophy. And the way religion is expressed in our daily lives is different. We have different ways of expressing it. And so what you have is Scrum is one of the ways that we express or take that philosophy and make it part of our daily lives. Scrum is merely a framework that helps us apply these values and principles on a daily basis to the work that we do, and ensure that we can, be agile for a long period of time. Because in the last thing, I know this is kind of a longer explanation, but the
I
last
love it.
thing about
Yeah.
agility that's really important is that most people think about speed only.
Right.
It's not just about speed. It's about the speed with which we can safely change things in response to the world.
And you mean speed at which of implementing, right? Not necessarily
Implementing, and if you think of obviously, I've spent 3 decades plus in software development, so this is the metaphor I know.
Sure.
But we know that the world is changing. So how can I change my software to reflect the needs of my customer, and do so successfully? Not just for my success, but for their success. That is what agility is all about.
Sure, that and helping scale, right? That's another big thing that a lot of people don't take into account too. They just had this big idea. I know I did before I got started. I just had this big idea. I had no idea that you had to do all these different things to make things scale properly. And in getting some of that education, which it's rudimentary at best, but getting that education there to which is actually why I'm taking your class, by the way. So
well, we're looking forward to having you in the class.
Yeah, so I'm excited to learn more about that. And you see me taking notes. I mean, I know we talked yesterday a little bit about this, but this is so essentially Agile is a way of thinking, and Scrum is a way of expressing that way of thinking and kind of implementing it. Correct?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to look at it. When I'm giving the class, I talk a lot about, a metaphor of lenses. Agile is a lens with which we can see the world. Sometimes these are referred to, for folks who are familiar with this kind of thing, as mental models. It's the way we see the world that determines how we behave in that world. And Agile is merely a different lens, a different way of seeing the world. And it happens to be a very good lens.
Sure.
For viewing the world of complexity, which is the world of knowledge work, much, much clearer.
Yeah.
And my contention has always been, I'm not the only one, but my contention has been that when we see the world more accurately, we will behave a little bit more optimally. It's not a right or wrong, good or bad, black or white kind of thing.
Sure.
You can be successful with all kinds of different ways of going about doing business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're optimal. So for me, it's about trying to understand, what does optimal be? What does optimal mean? I personally, and I think most people who have a desire to create in this world, wish to be excellent. That's what that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing, being optimal, being excellent. If you just want to be, average or good, then you might not need these mental models, because it's not going to make that much difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so from hearing you talk, I know from other people who are going to hear this podcast, who are going to listen to you talk, obviously what you're talking about is like a very 30,000 foot view, mm-hmm. right, of what it is that you're going to go into in the course. But even at that 30,000 foot view, it's very technical sounding, at least, right? And for someone who's not necessarily well versed in what it is and may have some apprehension on even, visiting that website down below that's going across the ticker, the jobhackers.org/participant, and joining your class, is this class for like just people who are experts at this? Is this class for people who are beginners? Like, who is this geared towards?
Yeah, we get the funny thing is we get people from all walks of life. And it's not, you don't necessarily have to have a technical background. That's one of the big questions I get from a lot of people. I don't have a technical background. Can I take this course? we have a very interesting demographic for the people who do take this class. One thing that's really important is we have never, and I would never, pre-screen people.
Sure.
Being that it's a free class, what I recommend to people is, look, give it a shot. If it doesn't resonate with you, great. You haven't invested much more than a little bit of time.
Sure.
And so we, let me talk a little bit, Adam, about some of the demographics to make people feel a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because we don't pre-screen, we have the diversity that all the tech companies, always wring their hands about, the fact that they can't get diversity. And I have some thoughts on that, and I don't know if we want to pursue it, but we have 2/3 of our participants are women.
Wow.
A lot of these women are women who have taken care of families and now trying to re-enter and re-engage with the workforce, which is one of the reasons that we have a lot of women in our class. And I think it's great. It's almost 50-50 people of color in our class. And our average age is 43 for those who actually admit how old they are. So it might even be older than that.
Right.
But this is something that has held up for quite some time. We put through the previous class. We started with 250 enrollees, and we put through about 140 who made it all the way to the end of the 6 weeks.
Okay.
So these are big numbers, and these numbers have held out for quite some time. This level of diversity, and we continue. I'm on some task force and other things to find underserved communities. And try to see if what we're doing actually makes a difference. And so we have seen, some of our diversity, classic diversity numbers increase.
Sure.
In terms of communities that might not be represented in the world of tech.
Yeah.
So I have a lot to say about, and I have given presentations, though I'm certainly not an expert on diversity and inclusion, but I know quite a bit now from having created a diverse and inclusive community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's amazing, especially from now. I do have a question about you said you had 250, right? And then you said out of those 250, how many made it all the way through?
About 140.
140
I think those are numbers. Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers on hand, but I know the round numbers.
So what would you say the difference is between the 250 versus the 140 that made it all the way through? What advice would you give someone joining your class to make it all the way through?
It's just a matter of really showing up. So
like anything else in life, right?
So there are going to be some people who say, my friend, we're about 50% word of mouth.
Sure.
Which is pretty tremendous.
That's amazing.
So, a friend has said, come join the class, and they found value in it, and somebody joins the class, maybe it's not for me. It's early in the morning.
Sure.
So that, I know we lose some folks because of that.
So the East Coast is who you want to go after then.
well, the East Coast, for the folks who don't like early, because we start, it's 7:30 a.m. to 9 o'clock Pacific. As I said, Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks.
Sure.
So we'll lose some to that. Some people find work while they're in the class, and that's a big thing for the people taking the class. We don't pre-screen, so we will have people who are employed, but the purpose of what we're doing is to help the unemployed and people in transition, which obviously is very pertinent during the pandemic. And they find work. Yeah. And because they find work, they're busy working, and great. Go get the job. That's really the important thing, right? I mean, if you don't have a job, I talk a lot in the class about this concept of asymmetric payoffs, right? Mm-hmm. What are those things that we can do with very little effort that give us a huge payoff? Well, the largest asymmetric payoff in almost anyone's life is their job.
Yeah.
And so when these people find work, I say, great, congratulations. And they say, but we can't make your class. Well, so what? Make it later, whatever.
Right.
You got a job, right? That's the most important thing.
So for example, what kind of positions are people getting after taking your class? I know it's like probably a wide range of things, but like what sort of like for those who are kind of interested, they're like, huh, that sounds, because obviously things are changing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of jobs are being automated and so on and so forth. So they're having some ideas about, well, maybe I can go into this, maybe I could go into this, whatever. But what sort of like job opportunities are out there for people who take a class and are and companies that are looking for qualifications of what you teach in your class?
Yeah, so the most direct position is a position called Scrum Master. This is a position that has shown up over the last 10 years or so. It is one of the fastest increasing job categories according to LinkedIn. I think it's in the top 10. So this is something that a lot of folks haven't heard of before. These Scrum Master jobs, mostly working in technology. So the people who benefit the most and far and above probably the typical person entering the class is a project manager, program manager, product manager, because these skills speak directly to those things. And there's a lot of folks, if you're a project manager now and don't know Agile and are looking for work, almost every position you're going to look at is going to be a position that is going to ask for Agile knowledge. And by the way, this is the number one thing. We follow the people through the class as much as we can.
Sure.
We know, based on what we're able to track, that 40% of the people who take the class will have a job within 90 days of taking the class.
That's amazing.
Now, these are huge numbers for workforce development. Now, we're not going to take credit for all that. What we're going to take credit for is we are helping to give them a knowledge that when they get into an interview and somebody asks them about Agile and Scrum, they are able to give not only an intelligent answer, but a solid answer.
Yeah, not like a pre-scripted one. Like it's organic.
It comes, because we're teaching it to them. It's something that they know very well and they're very comfortable answering. And this is the number one thing that people come back and tell us and tell me. The class that you gave and the knowledge you gave prepared me so well for the interview, and that's probably what gave me the job. And that's just music to my ears, because that's what we're looking to do, is to help.
I mean, you're making a huge difference.
Yeah, no, I think we are. I think we're making a really big difference in the world. And that's just, that's the motivation. People often ask me, why do you spend so much time? Why do you give away so much? Because, you get back so much from creating what we've created, which is a community.
Right.
We have, everybody who takes the class joins Slack. Everybody's familiar with Slack these days. We have 1,500 people in our Slack community.
And by the way, those who are not familiar with Slack,
who are not familiar with Slack, you're going to become familiar with Slack, I'm sure.
Exactly, especially if you go into tech space. Slack is a way of messaging, creating groups, and almost like a WhatsApp, but online. That's like the best way I could describe it. Now, I do have a two-parted question.
Okay.
And they kind of go hand in hand with each other. The first one, for someone who is a non-technical co-founder, and after listening to this, hearing how important Agile and Scrum is to a project manager, right? Mm-hmm. Just that role in general. Obviously, that's a quality that you're going to want to look for in a project manager.
Yeah.
So what sort of things can a non-technical co-founder look for with a project manager, a program manager? What should they be on the lookout for? And I'll just start with that first question, and then I'll go into the second one, because I feel like it kind of ties hand in hand.
Okay. So I'm going to break it. I'm going to step back just a little bit. One of the things I teach in the class is there's a concept called Cannabin. Comes to us from a gentleman named David Snowden. So I don't want people to think I made this up. This is somebody else's thinking.
Sure.
The work that we do, he splits into 4 quadrants. And those quadrants are obvious, chaotic, complicated, and complex. I don't want to get too much into it, but the work that we do in software development and most knowledge work fits into that complex category. So having someone that you're employing to do, project or product management, this is something they should know. They should know what is the nature of the work that we're doing. because it's the nature of the work that we do that will determine how we attack the problem. So to speak, right? How do we go about implementing and having the most success?
Right.
The opposite of Agile, or sometimes considered the opposite of Agile, is called Waterfall, which I think a lot of folks are familiar with. That works very well in the complicated world. So if I'm building a house, if I'm building I always use apartment complex. I don't want to do that with Agile. I don't want to use the Agile philosophy because I already know how to do it. Right. These are things that are well known. These are things I could take a checklist and just go through and make sure I do these things, these best practices, and I'm going to be successful.
Right.
That doesn't happen in the complex world. In the complex world, these checklists, we can use them, and we a lot of folks do, but they don't guarantee the outcome that we're looking for.
Absolutely.
So these are the things I teach in my class, and a program manager, project manager, product manager, whatever you're calling these people, they should understand that about what you do, and then apply the right frameworks or processes to match the type of work that you do, because it's not a matter of whether you're successful or not. Again, it's a matter of being optimal.
Right.
Which is what all startups should do. I mean, if we're talking specifically startups generally are much more agile than others because they realize the value of feedback. They realize the value of moving quickly.
The Lean Startup goes into that. For those who haven't read it, I highly recommend the Lean Startup. That's kind of what my entry level knowledge of Agile is. So
absolutely. And for me, since Agile is a philosophy, Lean is part of that, for me, and others might disagree, but it's under that umbrella, as are a lot of other things. We talk about Kanban and the Toyota way and other things. To me, those are all part of this Agile umbrella for me. So, I kind of create this big tent that Agile holds a lot of different things because it is just a philosophy, and I believe it's appropriate, to place these things within that philosophy.
For sure. And the second part of my question is geared more towards the project manager or the program manager or the person who wants to become one. Now that they hear us talking about it, maybe that's something that they're interested in taking a look at. And maybe we went over this, but which I think we did, but I kind of want to dig a little deeper on it.
Sure.
Why is it so important for the project manager or program manager to know this for a tech startup, or maybe not even for a tech startup? To your point, Toyota uses a method similar, to the Lean method, right? So maybe it's not in a technology startup. Maybe it's something similar. Like to your point, that's maybe not in the complex, right? I think that's what you said. Like technology falls into the complex. I feel like the Toyota method would be more of the complicated piece because it's that checkbox, right? So, and from a tech perspective, because that's what this podcast is for. Why would the Agile and Scrum method be so important for someone getting that job, and why are these jobs looking for things that are like that?
Yeah, so the waterfall method, which is generally what people would be using if they don't use Agile, and not to make it too simplistic, but the waterfall method is very, very slow.
Sure.
And not only is your time to market, your cycle time very, very slow, but in essence, you've removed a lot of feedback in your system.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing about, okay, how are we successful in the complex world? Well, the real thing to be successful is, do we have enough feedback in the system to tell us what the right things to do are, because we don't necessarily know ahead of time. We can't just use the checklist. So Waterfall removes that. Agile puts it in. I mean, Scrum is a perfect example of a framework that has all kinds of different, what they refer to as events, and some people call ceremonies, that put feedback into our daily lives so that it mitigates the risk. But the biggest thing for startups, and the biggest thing to understand, is this is a business thing.
Sure.
This is a bottom line profit and loss thing. You will deliver higher quality software, more valuable software in terms of what your customers want and need, and you will deliver it much, much sooner using Agile than you will using Waterfall. companies understand this.
For sure.
And they are looking for people who can help guide them towards this agility. In my first class, it's a thought experiment because I don't think anyone's crazy to give me unlimited power in a software development organization. But I often state during the next 6 weeks, I'm going to show you why I believe this to be true. And what I believe to be true is if I had unlimited power in any software development company in the world, I could double their net profit in 2 years.
And you know, it's so crazy you say that, because what ends up happening, and this is why this is so important for non-technical co-founders, is because of that point right there. From a non-technical co-founder standpoint, myself looking at, I can sell, right? That's what most non-technical co-founders can do. What I can't do is when we're doing an API integration, we keep getting an error and it sends me 32 and a half emails in an hour. And I'm like, I just send it to my project manager. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on right now. But to your point, that's why they get paid so much. And that's why I feel this is such a great topic to talk on, especially with what you're providing in your what is it, Agile MBA, right? And kind of where that came from for those who are wondering where that name came from. You had told me there was a student of yours who came into your class. You actually did get an MBA in what was it? An MBA?
I don't recall. I've had
they had an MBA.
Of students who have their MBAs, and I've had one in particular which I remember, but not the only one.
Yeah.
He came up to me after the class and he says, this is before we called it the Agile MBA, which again in quotes.
Right.
He said, if I have my MBA, but if this were a course in my MBA class, it would have been the best course
for sure
in the class. And I had a conversation at one point, I think I shared this with you as well, prior to the podcast,
right?
With a professor who teaches MBA at a school in the Bay Area. I'm not going to say which one, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Yeah.
But he said, our MBA programs tend to teach our students how to successfully run an 1860s railroad. They don't really, most MBA programs don't really teach the students what is fundamentally different about the knowledge-based world, the complex world, and how to actually succeed in that world.
Sure.
They teach us how to succeed in the world that was, so to speak. So we started, it's very tongue-in-cheek, but we started using the word Agile MBA because I think it has a certain marketing ring to it. I've only had a few people offended by that term. We're not actually giving out a true MBA, but it is about business. It is about profit and loss. Sutherland, who is one of the co-founders of Scrum, he wrote a book. Twice. I think I'm probably get it wrong, but it's twice the work and half the time, I believe, is what it's called. So he's basically saying the same thing I am. Right. If you can figure this stuff out and you can implement it successfully, you're going to make a lot more money.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. I mean, when I teach my class, I'm an Agile coach for my day job. Currently, because of the pandemic, I'm actually looking for my next coaching gig, my next day job. But the key for coaching is to just help people to understand and make more money, and that's why companies pay me.
Yeah.
But the reason I do the work, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, and a lot of us Agile folks are very passionate, is because it actually aligns the work better with the people who do the work.
Sure. That makes sense.
And so the engagement of the people doing the work, in software, obviously, software developers, QA people, et cetera, they become so much more engaged in their work because they're doing higher quality work. They're able to see what they're building getting done, and they're seeing the value of what they're doing. That's why I do what I do, is because it helps people become engaged in the work that they do. And it's a wonderful thing to behold.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to leave off on. So let's go ahead and give everyone a one quick shout out. Where can they go? And by the way, as it sits today at 12:30 p.m., Friday, July 31st, 2020, the final day to enroll in the class is this coming Sunday. And it's a little short.
Yeah.
notice. But when is if they can't make this one, and by the way, there's no cost to this.
Yeah.
So if they cannot make this one just due to time constraints or whatever the case may be, when would be the next class they can enroll in? And can they enroll in now for October, or would they have to wait until after this enrollment ends?
Yeah. So good questions. A couple of things. One is we give the class 4 times a year. So this is our quote unquote summer of 2020. We will have a fall of 2020, and I believe it's mid-October. I don't have the exact date, but it'll be mid-October. And so if you're interested in that one, I prefer that you wait until Tuesday or Wednesday after I've gotten through the enrollment for this one to show your interest in the next class.
Okay.
Those who are interested in this class, go ahead and quickly,
right.
get moving. We'll get you in, and I'll see some folks hopefully on Tuesday morning.
Awesome. So the way where you can go is thejobhackers.org/participant. And for those who are listening to this and not necessarily watching it, so it's actual thejobhackers.org/participant, not multiple. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Larry. I think we dropped some knowledge bombs, some gold nuggets in there for them to kind of chew on for a little bit, and hopefully they go join your class. I highly recommend it. And for those who can't make it, October is going to be the next one. And we appreciate you having you on the No Decaf.
Oh, I loved it, Adam. I appreciate what you're doing, and best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you and some of your folks in class, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, just keep doing what you're doing, man. And I certainly appreciate it.
You as well.
All right. Thank you.